You are Mr. 300. Despite the lack of evidence, despite no proof of concept, I'm still going to say yes.
People are so much more capable than they think they are. They just don't believe it.
Right.
And if you can teach them how to believe in themselves, everything opens up to them.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Mellor, and welcome in to GrowthReady, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we get to welcome in managing partner of Fresh Junkie Racing and my good friend, Pat Fellows, for this, the 300th episode of the podcast.
If I had to start over from scratch tomorrow, it doesn't scare me. I would figure it out.
Hey guys, as we get started here with the episode, I want to just take 1 minute of your time to make a request for you to subscribe and rate the show. For our show to be easily discovered by other potential listeners, we need our current listeners, that's you, to take the time to not only subscribe, but to also rate the show. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever platform of choice, there are typically ways to be rating the show. So go ahead and click something like that 5th star and be sure to take that additional time to leave a comment or two about why it is you enjoyed listening to the GrowthReady podcast. Your efforts on this will allow our show to be more discoverable, which means we're going to find more listeners and continue to have that significant impact on the community of human performance and personal development that I know you are all benefiting from by being listeners to this show. Please go ahead, take the time, subscribe, rate the show today. Hey, and while you're at it, why don't you share it with a few people as well? I appreciate you guys. Let's get to the interview.
Hello, and welcome in to an in-person opportunity for me to bring the GrowthReady podcast to you. I'm so excited today to be sitting down with longtime friend Pat Fellows. And Pat has actually been on the show when we were Career Competitor, and we did 2, I believe, annual chats with Steve and Pat.
Yeah.
It could have, gone off into its own spin-off with a name like that,
It
obviously,
could have.
but we never quite got the traction from the audience, sadly. But I am delighted to actually have you on and have you truly be the guest. And for me to start by asking you a question now that I've had the opportunity to ask, I believe it's about 65 times across the 300 podcast episodes that I've now recorded. So you are Mr. 300. And so we'll get into that a little bit because I am very proud and very excited about that being number 300. But before we go any further, brother, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
See, and I knew this was coming. Of course, everybody else, maybe everybody knows. And I gave some pause and thought about it. And I think that the thing for me that I kept coming back to was being open to saying yes to things. I know that like a lot of trends in the world is like, no, you got to say no. You got to carve out your space and you got to set these boundaries and you got to say no more than you say yes. And I understand that there's a place for that, but I think that if you don't have a yes mindset to start out, that you're really not open to doing things. Like if everything's I think you and I have spoken about this before. If it's a yes, but if it's like conditional, if everything's like that, then you really, you want it, but you want it on your terms.
Right.
And that's not necessarily how growth or anything really good happens. Like if you set all these parameters ahead of time on how you want things to go, you're going to be, I think you're going to be sadly disappointed because things don't go that way.
Yeah. And yes is a powerful word.
It is.
When you commit to what the word means. The word is to confirm, right? I mean,
right.
we're doing it.
Yeah.
And you're alluding to the fact that we, through our evolution, have maybe started to create terms around how we say yes or why we say yes, possibly.
Well, and I think that like there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with like learning to say no and learning to protect your time and learning to do things. You can't say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you go in with that sort of no, like if that's your leading thing, mm-hmm. then you're going to miss out on so many things.
Right.
Like I look at a lot of the things that I've had the opportunity to do, and all of it was because I just said yes and figured it out. Mm-hmm. That didn't mean over time you didn't cull things down or figure out what how to do it to the best of your abilities. Mm-hmm. But you had to start out with yes, right? Like you think about putting on some of the races we put on. I mean, like we were told no, mm-hmm. right, out the gates, and we kept saying yes. We were going to keep doing it. Yeah. Had we said no originally, like we would have never done any of the things. Yeah, because everybody said, oh, it's too hard, or You'll never finish on the 50-yard line at LSU, or you won't do all those things. And we just said, yeah, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna figure it out. So
yeah, and I want to uncover more of your story through this, which is something we didn't really do the first two times you came on. We talked more about just general concepts,
sure, around
competition, mindset, etc. And we're gonna get to that as well. But you've alluded to it already. You and Fresh Junkie Racing. Part of what you do, well, a big part of what you do is being able to put on these enormous events.
Yep.
And more than likely deal with a variety of reasons and challenges that are going to prevent you from actually delivering and yet finding a way to do it. And I already have found an interesting caveat around this way that you've responded to what it means to be growth ready, because it's not just as much as saying, say yes, say yes, say yes. It's actually finding the willingness to say yes when everything in front of you is telling you no.
Yeah.
So I would love to just go to where and how Fresh Junkie Racing came to being.
Yep.
And just walk us up to maybe more of the present day from there.
Yeah, I mean, without going, too deep, the core of what we do is myself and I have 3 business partners. Mm-hmm. One of them was putting on a set of races. Myself and the other 2 business partners started out as triathlon coaches and marathon coaches, and we enjoyed coaching, and we put on a few events here and there, and we kind of did a little bit of everything. And then over time, my business partners were much more interested in putting on events. Mm-hmm. And I had the luxury and people, I was like, well, people have called me in the past to put them on, so if we want to do them, we can do them. And really, they spearheaded and took it and really helped grow it. And it's all of us. Mm-hmm. And then over time, we kind of came together as a group. But yeah, it was very much, this kind of mentality is like, we're going to try to create things that don't necessarily exist. Mm-hmm. And some of the most, we're all over the Southeast. So we're in Mississippi, we're in Alabama, we're in Louisiana, where it's not the prototypical healthy runner meccas. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great communities within that, but we're not in Boulder, right? Like, and so we were trying to say, hey, we want to create these events and bring people from all over the nation and the world to see what we can produce. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it started in 20. We started putting on events here and there, and I started in maybe 2004ish. Mm-hmm. But Fresh Junkie Racing itself and its really kind of core group, we're going into the 15th year this next month of the Louisiana Marathon. Mm-hmm. And we had been doing it for a couple years before that on a little bit smaller scale. But that was kind of the big, let's say turning point, but that was like, we're going to put on this race. And we had no idea what we were doing. Mm-hmm. It was, we brought in people that were more talented than us that helped us execute it. And we didn't know what we were getting into. And we thought for sure we would get to where we are now, which is going to be about 10,000 runners pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And there was ups and downs along the way, but like we just said yes and figured it out. And then, over the last 15 years we now have 15 events, 4 states and all over the Southeast. And most of it, a lot of the events we put on, like when we put on a cross country festival in Tallahassee, we took this world-class course and we said, well, this is really cool. Why don't we light it up and do it at night? Mm-hmm. Right? Like it was just fine the way it was to hold a meet on.
Right.
But like, well, how can we push the envelope and create something super cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you're in this space of this yes mindset, if you will,
Yeah.
and so that last example you gave, for you to pitch something like that initially to those that have brought you in, what does some of the no's typically look like in those situations when you're going in with this, like, we see what's possible here, we see what we could do, and we want to say yes to that? Are people just opening their arms and saying, sure, why not? Or are you, like, how are you navigating those no's, and what do they look like when they come?
I always feel like a lot of times if you kind of take some ownership of it and you come in confidently, even if you don't know what you're going to do, but you're like, hey man, we've never done this, but we have a pretty good feeling that we can pull it off, that people, we've been doing events for a long time. So they can see kind of our track record, like, hey, LSU told us we couldn't finish on the 50. Now we have 5,000 people that finish on the 50.
Right.
They told us in no uncertain terms, this was years and years ago, we pitched the Louisiana Marathon to them. They're like, well, people have done that before, and their little races will have 250 people. And we're like, we want to put 5,000 people through it. And they didn't get it. It took 7 years of getting in there.
But what part do they not get in that situation?
I think they just don't. I think that especially like running events, nobody. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's like, hey, if somebody says, hey, I want to put on a music festival like Jazz Fest, you go, oh, I know what Jazz Fest is. I'll put it on.
Yeah.
You say, I want to put on a 2-day running festival in Louisiana celebrating food and music and running and all together. They're like, okay, cool. How many people really want that? They don't have a point of reference for what it is.
So there's no evidence.
And so there's not as lot of evidence to it.
Here.
Yeah. And at least here, in the Tallahassee deal, the guy we talked to, there's other races around the nation that light up courses. And so that wasn't so unique, but nobody had done it there.
Right.
And they sought us out because they had seen what we had done in some other events. It's like, they didn't even know if we did cross-country events, which we hadn't.
Right.
And, we went out on a site visit, and me and one of my business partners ran. I was like, man, this place is great, but what if we did it at night? And he looked at me and was like, there's no way they're going to do that. I was like, I bet you they'll do it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's, how do you get around the nose? How do you do that? For me, I think it's, the yes has to be a conviction almost, right? Like, it's more than just yeah, sure, we can do it. We don't know how. We'll figure out. You have to be like, this would be the coolest thing ever if we could do X, Y, and Z. Right. The first year was a kind of small event. Yeah. I don't want to say a failure, but it wasn't on the scope that we wanted it to be.
We thought it could be, yeah.
Teams saw it, and we tripled the size between year 1 and year 2. And now people are already emailing us like, that was the coolest cross country event we'd ever did. Are y'all doing it again next year? So it's sometimes you got to have people that trust you to do what you can do,
right?
And then you have to go out and execute it.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing, which I think is so important, is really why I'm so glad we've already arrived at this, because I think this is such an important topic around growth. There's so many examples out there of folks that at some point have said, despite the lack of evidence, despite no proof of concept, I'm still going to say yes.
Yeah.
And that, our listeners aren't going to know about all of the other entrepreneur quests that you've gone down. And we may touch on those today. But for me, even just what you've done with Fresh Junkie Racing stands alone as a body of work that proves that we don't need to know for sure. We don't need the body of evidence that proves that this can be a concept that works. We just need to be willing to consistently say yes. So specific to you, brother, like, how come you're capable of doing that? Where does that come from with you? Where does that ability to say, despite knowing that there's no evidence,
right,
I still want to lean in and I still want to say yes?
I think for me, I don't know if I've always been that way. I've always been like, why not? I mean, I wanted to be a musician for 10 years of my life, right? Like, you better have some conviction and be willing to, continue to do it regardless of, what the rest of the world is telling you to do. And then I worked in the restaurant business for 20 years, right? Like, those are things that for sure teach you, like, hey, you've got to be resilient. You got to be up for the challenge. I think that I've always been kind of wired to want to do things. I don't know. I don't want to say it's like a ton of like self-confidence in it, but again, it's almost so like, well, why not? Like, why can't we do that? Like, who's to say?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I've just always been kind of wired that way, and almost to a fault. Like there's been times, and I know that, my trials and tribulations in the restaurant business, there was always this, well, this is the way the industry does it. Mm-hmm. And I was always just kind of like, well, why? Mm-hmm. Like it was always this kind of questioning, kind of status quo things. Like this is what everybody says you're supposed to do.
Right.
And I would always be like, why? Well, and some of those things I should have just done instead of beating my head against the wall and trying them. But that willingness to do that was just has been kind of how I've approached things. It's like anything. It's like coaching. It's like the things that we've talked about personally one-on-one. It's like, when you and I talked about your business and I was like, sure, of course you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was never like when you brought it up to me and you're like, what do you think? Do you think I can do this? And I said, of course you can.
Yeah. Right.
And like, that's kind of how I want to say, look at the world. That's a little bit too broad, but in a way, that's kind of how I think that, it's like, yeah, why not? Why can't we?
But I just relate so much to it. And the way I've always looked at it is going back to my upbringing, there was so many excuses that I could have used to settle.
Yeah.
I guess. And it was that willingness to keep, every time I met each of those moments as I went through my childhood, as I got to teenage years, all these kind of things, and working class background, so many reasons and excuses that I didn't need to come out of where I came from.
Sure.
And to settle in a variety of ways. For some reason, I just never wanted to settle. I always felt as though there was something more. And until I could actually figure out what that more was, I was just going to keep going in search of it, if you will. And I hear a lot of that just from your story, is that there's a guy who's, whether it was when you were in the music business, when you were in the restaurant business, the work that you're doing today with Fresh Junkie, I hear a guy that somehow is able to say, well, I actually see the potential for this. I actually see what's capable here. And whether it be for you personally or whether it be for the business as a whole, I just hear a guy that's like, I've come this far. Why wouldn't I kind of keep going?
And I've jokingly said, if I had to start all the way over, I'll be 55 this year. And if I had to start over from scratch tomorrow, it doesn't scare me.
Right.
I would figure it out. I've been lucky enough, especially with the racing business, to surround myself, and not me just surrounding myself, but just, the group of us that did this, we're all kind of wired that way, but with different skill sets.
Right.
And that's been, I think, the difference between, the restaurant doing what it could have done or what have you, is I didn't have as much of that. And sometimes you need support, and you need people that like fill in the gaps of where, my naivete, where I'll just say, of course we can do it.
Yeah.
And, the day before the first Louisiana Marathon, I'm out measuring the course. And people are like, what? And I'm just like, I thought, I figured I'd have time. Like it's the day before. And like people are like, that's insanity. Yeah. Of course, that was not the right way to do it.
No.
And so over time, we've become a much more accomplished ops-based company than I was able to bring to that. But the first year, it still went off. We still had, I don't remember, 2,800, 3,000 people come out. And it was, it was a resounding success.
Yeah. You just said, like, you have a willingness to say, like, hey, if it was all taken away,
right,
that I'd figure it out. I'd figure 100%. It out. And for me, going back to what I was just saying about my own upbringing, is I see so much evidence of a kid and then a boy and then a man that was just willing to figure it out. And I think that's such an important message in this whole concept of growth, but more so in the second part of what we talk about on this podcast, which is the readiness. It's like, instead of looking ahead and saying, like, what evidence is there of something already existing, look back and say, what evidence is there of the fact that I can actually take this on?
Right.
Like I'm actually capable. Like you said, even if everything were taken away from you right now, you would still have this body of evidence of what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Which is why you would figure it out.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I think that it would, of course, like, I don't want to start from scratch. However, I have enough. I mean, I get excited, even almost like if you said, "Oh my gosh," some people are like, "What if I lost my job? What if I lost this? What would I do? What would I do?" And I look at those times and go, "That's exciting."
But isn't that why people play it safe, though? Isn't that why people play it safe? Because they operate from that fear.
Yeah. Well, of course, everybody. I mean, and look, I have fears, and we all.
Yeah, we have
like
fears.
I'm not naive. I'm not like some super person. Right. I'm just like
100%.
Just with regards to things like that, like starting and trying and doing those types of things. I have, I've said this to people. It's like it's like things tend to work out for you when you think that things are always going to work out for you. Like, it's not just manifesting things. Like, I'm not getting all hoopy-doopy on that. But if you believe that things are going to work out for you and that you're going to figure it out, it's weird how much you just figure out. And right? And so, like, thinking about those things and, some people look as like, oh, man, if I lost my job, what would I do? Or if I didn't have this, what would I do? And I'm like, okay. Not to say it wouldn't be some lean times or things would be super easy to do it, but I have 100% confidence that I could get back to where I am.
Right.
And, just figure out I might be doing something completely different. Who knows?
Yeah. And use the word belief there. You'd have the belief. And you've also acknowledged a couple of times already our private conversations that we have a lot. And full disclosure, that's kind of what our plan was today, was just to say, screw it. For once, we're just going to put some mics on and really just lean into some of the topics that you and I frequently discuss, one of which is belief. We talk about it through the lens of athletes all the time. I think for me personally, belief is fragile. It requires work. But that's my own perspective. And I'd love to just learn from you now. Like, when you think of Pat's belief, like, firstly, what is your belief anchored in? Is it in a sense of self? Is it in a sense of value? Is it in a sense of like production and the outcome? Like,
I don't know. I don't want to say I don't think about it. I think that, there is something to be said about some confidence and having done a lot of different things, some better than others. And again, it always, like, I'm in a better place now than I was 10 years ago. And I was in a better place than the 10 years prior. Like it always seems to get better. And sometimes I don't really have the plan for how that's going to happen, but I believe that it is.
Yeah.
I think that, just from, excuse me, the thought of belief and the power in it, we talk about coaching. It was like, you're really, I think I was reading some book and it was a quote by the bass player from Sonic Youth, Kim Gordon. There's in something of the idea that I'm up here playing music and it's teaching people to believe in themselves or something, believing something that they can't do.
Sure. And
I'm giving them a little piece of that. And I think I kind of twisted that when you and I were talking about coaching and belief. And I was like, really, people are so much more capable than they think they are. They just don't believe it.
Right.
And if you can teach them how to believe in themselves, everything opens up to them. Right. And it's a hard thing. And there's no like, here's the manual on teaching belief. Yeah. It's about consistency. It's about reinforcing consistency. It's about, a lot of times getting people out of their way from saying, oh, I can't do that. Right. Like, or I always look at things like, of course I can.
Right.
Even if I can't. Even if I don't. But it's a small turn of the switch, right? It's like, but that's what, to me, if you talk about what belief is, that it always, if you think it's going to work out, it usually does. Again, it may not be, it's not like some smooth road, but eventually it does. I don't know.
When you talk about directing the belief towards capability, what I like about that is this idea that we're directing the belief towards what's already inside of us.
100%.
And I think that's the bridge that so often doesn't get crossed. It's just like, if we're unable to see what we're capable of, if no one can help us with that, then we really have no foundation to build the belief out of.
I think that, everything from athletics to business and everything in between, relationships, like, everybody is capable of so much more than either they allow themselves to achieve or ever even recognize that they couldn't. They get so trapped in and where they are. And maybe some of those things are safety. Maybe it's some of the things that they were taught, growing up, you go out, you get a job and you do this. But then what happens when they're 50 something, they lose a job. They don't know some people wouldn't know what to do.
Right. How have you figured out your capability? Like, when you look at your life as a body of work, like how did Pat identify with his own capability to form this belief that you've created to be able to say yes more often than you say no?
Well, I mean, it's probably something that goes back to what you alluded to at the beginning, or maybe it might have been another conversation, but there's an expectation, right? Like what we expect to get, we get. Like, or if we have a athletic performance, if we expect to do X, Y, and Z, we usually get that.
Right.
If we decide to, if we decide just to try to be better, we're never open to being our best because we kind of say, better is always like, I got to do better. I got to do better.
Right.
Sometimes like, well, today I'm going to give it my best.
Yeah.
And if that's all I got, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it's it's consistency, it's expectation. Those are the things that I think that you ask me these things like, how did you realize? I don't know that I ever realized it. To me, it's just kind of where I turn to a lot of times.
Do you just inherently feel like you have greater capabilities, and that's why you're willing to believe?
Yeah, and I think that I'm always. I mean, it's like again, I keep bringing up athleticism. I'm not the best athlete in the world, but I for sure understand and want, and I expect a certain level, right? And maybe it's just effort. And maybe that's where my belief comes in, is I know that, I might not always do it right, but I'm gonna expect to show up and work hard and do the things that have to be done to do it, get it done.
Which is such a great point. Like you can have capability in your effort. Like that right there. It's like capability is not, it's not specific just an outcome or a result. And I think that is such an important part of this is, just to go all the way into all the different facets that make us who we are and that provide the potential or the talents or whatever it is that we have, for you to acknowledge there that, hey, listen, sometimes it's just about my effort. And can I believe that I'm going to give the effort that is necessary, specific to whatever this may be? And you've done from a physical standpoint, you've done some absolutely bonkers things. How far did you swim? 37, 32?
34 miles.
34, somewhere. I knew I was in between. 34-mile swim in one going. All right. So that was typically something I would knock out over about 4 days, spread out around different practices back in the day. You did it in one body of work, not in a pool, in a big body of water, and that right there is not about, I would have to assume none of that was about doing things better. It was about what could your best be at every single juncture of a 34-mile swim.
Well, and a good friend of mine asked me before I did that, he's like, do you even know if you can swim that far? And my answer to him was, I never considered I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I didn't mean for it to be a cool soundbite.
Sounded cool, though.
But it was 100% the truth. My friend, and this is a guy who's a great friend of mine, and he's always kind of that guy that always kind of twists things a little negative. Like, hey, can we really? And I'm like, yeah, we can. Mm-hmm. But this was like the day before the swim. Mm-hmm. And it had never entered my mind that I wasn't going to be able to complete it,
right,
and not be able to do it. And until that day, when he said it, I was like, well, I don't know. Can I? I think I can. Mm-hmm. Well, I still got to get in the water tomorrow and, X amount of time. So we're going to find out.
Right.
But those are the things that, again, like when, we've talked about like mental toughness. What is it? Sometimes there's a power in just being like, I don't want to call myself clueless about things, but like not considering that it's like saying, all right, to do this, you have to get up every day and you have to swim 8K a day, or you got to do whatever. And people are like, how would you do that? And I was like, well, that's what I signed up to do. Mm-hmm. So like, that was it. Like, that's what I'm going to go do now.
Task at hand.
Right. Like, so it wasn't that big deal. It was like my coach during the time. She's like, you never questioned a workout or didn't do a workout or whatever, except for an injury once. Why was that? I was like, well, I asked you to coach me. Mm-hmm. Like, why would I not respect what you asked me to do and just do it?
Right.
Like, this is something I wanted to do. It was nothing that anybody came and said, you have to do this.
Right.
But there is I will say that I want to say I guess I said naivete a minute ago. I guess that's the best way to, like, I sometimes just don't consider things.
But I think it's a willingness not to, like you said, that awesome soundbite. It's like, it's that willingness to not allow yourself to consider
the
not
alternatives.
being able to do it.
Right.
Like, and like that, is that the discipline? Is the discipline simply, if I just don't allow my mind to go towards the likelihood of me not completing or not performing,
Right.
like, can we entertain simply what it means to perform, what it means to do something to completion, what it means to be at our best without having to even go down the other path? Because the other path, what does it actually lead to when it comes to forming belief?
Yeah, well, it's terrible. I mean, it's totally a waste of time and totally counterintuitive to achieving the things that you say you want to achieve.
Right.
But most of the world is wired that way. I mean, you were just saying, like, oh, I could have made all these excuses growing up, and like the world looks for reasons why they can't a lot. And I don't think that I've ever, even if the likelihood of success is low, I still don't consider that it's not possible.
Right.
And can you teach that? Probably. I mean, I think that there's a power, like you can talk to people and you're like, okay, Steve, let's say you're like, I would, but X, Y, and Z was like, all right, what if you stepped out of yourself and looked at it as not you? Look at it from an outsider and tell me the whys you think you can. And when you say that out loud, does that seem like who you are, or does that seem realistic?
Yeah.
And most times, 9 times out of 10, people step back and go, I don't know why I even think that way. But until I could separate myself from it, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I guess I just, again, like I can be negative. I can get down. I've talked at length about depression and different things that affect me and blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying I'm like sunshine and rainbows, but at my core, I truly believe that we can do a lot of stuff.
And I want to go to the negativity and the openness around depression. It's something that I myself talk about often, have written about, you write about consistently in a lot of your work too. And before I go there, though, I think what's so important from what I'm hearing is that there's a chance here for someone listening to not have to worry so much about having the 10 lessons behind how we can possibly do X, Y, and Z when it comes to following through with a commitment or whatever it might be. Like the self-help book that is going to change your life and make you see everything differently. I think what you're offering here is just simply an awareness to this. Is like, hey, at the end of the day, if we can just simply focus more on what we need to do to bring something to completion, what we need to do to make something a success, what we need to do in order for us to be at our best, and just refrain from that tendency that we've maybe had before to go, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? What if I can't do this?
Yeah.
And just focus all our energy on moving forwards in some way, shape, or form. The belief's going to come. There's going to be some pitfalls. I'm not going to say it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but at the end of the day, that belief can be formed just by a simple shift in perspective where we say, you know what? My discipline's not going to be so much around staying the course and doing the work. My discipline's going to be more about not allowing myself to get distracted by the potential negative outcomes. So
and like negativity, depression, all those things, all add up to, all can give you like not knowing even how to start, not even know how to do it. And, trying to figure out like, on times when things aren't going great, like what's the next thing to have positive motion towards it? Because if I'm not, then I'm just sitting spinning. Right. Like that happens. Right. Like, again, it's not, I'm not some perfectionist just wakes up and grinds out everything all the time and it's super easy and I don't consider it and blah, blah, blah. Like on days that it's hard, but you're still like,
What does sitting and spinning feel like for you? I mean, I want to go there with you now, like that, because again, there's probably going to be things here you say that not only resonate massively with me, but probably resonate a lot with other people too. It's just when you feel yourself in that sitting and spinning kind of pattern, like what does that look like for you?
For me, it is it's for sure like a paralysis of even getting anything done, right? And I fall into it yearly, like every I think it's a stress reaction too. It's like you take on too much or whatever, and you kind of get overwhelmed. You kind of go, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm not doing this very well. Other people are having to pull some slack for me because I'm not doing it well. It doesn't feel great. And those things just kind of compound and keep doing that. And then it becomes hard for that not just to be the narrative you're telling yourself. I think that we all, I'm for sure tell myself things that I can't do. Just, we just spent 20 minutes talking about an inner belief in those things, and I still do.
Yeah.
But I still spend an enormous amount of time thinking about what I should be doing and what I'm not doing and what I ought to be doing and like all these other things. So like
the two can coexist. It's possible.
100%. So for me is hard. It's about getting back, making sure I'm exercising, making sure I'm getting, it's simple things like that, but those things actually help those things, right? Like setting the tone for the day, getting back to like waking up in the morning and exercising and, realizing, I've had some health issues and realizing, going on a run a couple of weeks ago. And I was telling you the, big goals that came through just on a run because I was like, I'm my best when I'm exercising regularly. It clears my mind. It helps. It's like, all right, the day is, I ran, I swam, I did something, whatever. I ate breakfast, and then I wrote for a little while. I did whatever. Like the day's already started. Like I've done things. It's when I fall into those things where I'm, really not even training for anything right now. My health isn't great, blah, blah, blah. I can't do this, can't do that. Next thing you know, you're like, and it's probably been the last 2 or 3 years that's been the worst that it's been in 20 years for me.
Sure.
But again, we had the conversation like, hey man, you told me that you were your best for 25 years when you were swimming every day or whatever, or exercising, waking up in the morning. And I asked you, well, why aren't you doing that anymore? And you're like, I don't know. Well, because it becomes easy, right? And it becomes easy, and it becomes it becomes self-fulfilling. It's like, oh, I missed yesterday. Well, today it doesn't matter. Like it becomes easier and easier to not to.
Something you were saying here, though, man, which I think is important to emphasize, is that just to make sure people didn't hear it wrong, is that we were just saying before that we can form belief by simply focusing on how do we keep moving, how do we keep progressing, and refraining from looking at potentially like, oh, what would happen if, like, what if I couldn't do this? And then when I asked you about sitting and spinning and how you describe that, the mind can go into a direction of like why I shouldn't, why I couldn't, how I'm getting in my own way, all these different obsessive things that I think I need to be tackling right now. But at no point are we allowing ourselves for those thoughts to necessarily go to, so why bother? Right. I didn't hear that from you.
Well, and like I said, at the core, I still believe I can.
Exactly.
And so, again, I think that's the thing for me that, like I told you, I was like, all right, maybe I can't ride. Maybe I can't do X, Y. I can't do long distance swimming anymore or whatever. So maybe like I've got no interest in running 50 or 100 miles, but maybe that becomes the thing because it's going to get me up and I'm going to go do stuff like that.
But what can I do?
Right. Right. And so, yeah, again, you said like those things can coexist and they 100% do. It still doesn't change my kind of core belief that we're all capable of a lot more, not just me, but that I believe in both me and I believe in other people's abilities to do that.
Right.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And, that's good. The other thing I'll say, and, when you talk about sitting and spinning and depression and anxiety and all those things, what I do know is that and I say you guys like you and I, and I'm using us specifically, not as some sort of thing.
Yeah.
I do have a bit of a team that I work with day in and day out. But when I'm in those kind of things, I shut the door and I block everything out and I turn inward. Yeah. Right now, you've got your own business. Yeah, you have your family and this and that, but it's all kind of on you.
Yeah.
And that sort of isolation, when you get into those, your tendency is when you're spinning and things aren't going great to isolate more,
right?
Which only just kicks it in even more.
Yeah.
I've told my friends that, that we put on the business with is like, we used to, we had a standing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday ride. We swam, we ran on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We swam somewhere in there as well. Mm-hmm. And we were always doing that,
right?
For a decade. And we quit doing that. Mm-hmm. And so then, why
do we do that? Like, that's such a relatable thing.
I think that life happens.
Right.
Life happens to different people. Like, I know my friend group, there's not, there's a life cycle to physical abuse.
Sure.
I mean, abusing yourself.
That's how we work out. Yes,
right.
We
but
abuse ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, there's a life cycle to that for some people that just get to the point they're like, I'm not getting up at 4:30 on Tuesdays to ride at 5:05 anymore. I'm just not doing that.
Right.
My life's in a different spot. And over time, that our group kind of ebbed and flowed, and some people still do stuff. Some people do it on their own time. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't do it anymore and just kind of got burned on it. Like, I get it. I understand that for me, that the benefits of it are beyond I miss the community piece that we had with the group that we had.
Yeah.
But I trained for 4 more Ironmans by myself when I was doing, because I was like, well, I'm still doing it. I'm still going to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I know that I've learned about myself is like, hey man, the reason I got into putting on events was because I liked, and coaching was like, I wanted to figure out a way to get paid to do triathlon.
Right.
Like, so I worked in the running shoe business. I had a healthy restaurant. We had events, blah, 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 blah. But all of it was like under, I realized towards the end of the 90s that like being in a band and partying all the time was probably not what I needed to do. It doesn't necessarily lead to the most productive life. And so I got heavily into training and was like, this is better. This is better than what I was doing. And so, I spent 20 years like, this is super important. So it still is, but you just got to figure out what's next.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to touch on health and then physical components of what we personally feel we represent and what we believe in before we wrap up as well. But I want to make sure that something that is coming across to everyone listening is that the work that goes into the readiness of each individual chapter, if you will, of life, like that. So much of what you were alluding to here is like, how do we manage the ebbs and flows that come at us and say, okay, on one hand, this is what I commit to, this is who I want to represent in terms of how I show up consistently. But on the other hand, how willing am I to do the work on myself from an awareness standpoint to know how I'm getting in my own way,
right,
as well? And how do I manage the two? And because I think when we think about, okay, this is who I am at my best, this is when I know I'm flourishing, this is when I know I'm in the right direction, versus this is how I get in my way. For me, that's the recipe right there for when we can say, okay, then if we know this, if we have an awareness to this, then really when it comes to growth, we can be ready for whatever comes our way. We just have to be able to develop the muscles, I suppose, to be able to say at any given moment, am I willing to give myself the grace that on this given day, I may in fact be this version of me that's not really my best and doesn't allow me to do my best work. And I'm curious with you, like how you've been hard on yourself over the years. I've been hard on myself over the years.
Sure.
I still am to an extent. What does your muscle of grace look like in your body? How do you give yourself permission, let's say, to sit and spin the way you do at times? If you do.
I don't.
You don't.
No.
Right.
And I should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
So why don't you?
I'm not sure. I wish I could define that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Giving myself permission. It's kind of like this. It's like, it's something you and I have spoken about again with business. Like, it's super easy for me to sit on the outside and go, Steve, this is where I think I can help you. Because I'm on the outside looking in.
True.
Right? Like, but you're in it the whole time.
Right.
And it's sometimes very difficult when you're in it the whole time. So it's kind of like, it's the epitome of do as I say, not as I do from a coaching standpoint.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah, I'm going to tell you not to do X, Y, and Z, but then I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm aware of it.
I mean, I live that life.
Yeah,
every
I know
day.
you do. And I don't have an answer for you. Like I said, I mean, I 100% know that I don't give myself permission to enjoy the things that I've accomplished or any of those things. I don't.
And that's the part.
I don't know,
I think you and I are both cheerleaders for this narrative to be out more, because you are very highly thought of within your community in terms of being a man that represents health, that represents wellness, that is, you sign every single email with hugs and high fives.
Yep.
Like you are positive Pat in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And you're sat here saying that at the end of the day, not only do I fall into these headspaces that aren't good for me, but I don't even give myself the grace for falling into it when it happens sometimes.
Right.
And I'm saying the same thing.
Sure.
And I sit across from people as recently as the last 24 hours, and I work with them on getting out of this very headspace that I myself falls into.
Sure.
And what I'm trying to allude to is that it's okay. It's okay for us to have the right words for others without necessarily being able to keep our own shit together.
I mean, look, I think it's, what I'll say is I understand that one of the things that brings me joy and makes me happier is helping others.
Mm.
And if I have the ability to help somebody else get out of it, that matters to me.
Yeah.
That feels good.
Yeah.
That I can't do it for myself. I mean, there's of course I have times of it. I of course know that I'm blessed beyond belief. Like
Right. I get that part
it
too.
I understand.
I don't think that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
It's not, but while understanding those things, it still doesn't mean I'm like, yeah, but that's good enough for others. That's not for me.
Right. Some people can actually, that blessing is enough and they don't have to go any further.
I don't know I've yet to figure out how to get outside of that. I try to do my best to, again, I think looking out always is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Looking, making anybody else, touching anybody else from making their day, like the smallest thing, those things bring me joy. Mm-hmm. Those things matter, I think, a lot in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that looking outward like that is one of the most positive things in my life.
Yeah.
And even teaching, working with a client who's an athlete and like giving them, teaching them and making them give themselves grace.
Right, exactly.
Like, I'm going to make you talk about this until you figure it out that you deserve some gratitude and grace and blah, blah, blah. And what you did was enough.
Right.
Like, that feels good. Yep. Again, maybe I feel it more than I think I do, but I feel like as a default, no. Right? Like as a default, there's a level of...
It's never your first response. Let's put it that way.
Not to myself, no.
Right.
No.
If it does come, it comes with some work and some time and all that kind of thing.
Well, and like we talked a little bit about expectation, and maybe expectation it can be a super positive thing if all your expectations are negative. But when you kind of judge your life on, wow, you guys just pulled off a race and y'all had, you were up 30% and everything went pretty great and you did this and you achieved this and yeah, that's what we said we were going to do.
Right.
That was the expectation.
Right.
Like, just because that's a great thing doesn't mean I give myself any credit for doing it.
Right. Credit's a whole nother part of this too.
I mean, yeah, but it's the same thing, right? Like credit, grace, expectation, they're all interrelated. But that's one of those things. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to make myself do that. And that's okay too.
Well, it's super cheesy, but one of the first things when I started getting into the public space of speaking, I put this little slogan beneath every single title of my speeches, and it was, I realized my potential by helping you realize yours.
Yeah. And
very cheesy, but at the same time very true. It was, for me, I've always gotten so much more. It's why I found and fell in love with coaching. I got as much as I would pour into myself as an athlete once, I get so much more of a return watching others flourish. And
of course.
I think what the part of that I love navigating with you here today is that through that work, because we are pushing and supporting others to perform at whatever levels they're trying to perform to, we're also pushing ourselves. But the support piece is much harder to do when left to our own devices.
100%. I mean, it's all, I don't know if it almost always feels better to help somebody else succeed at something than succeeding yourself.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. 100%.
And maybe that's not why I was never a world-class athlete. Like, that was not my driver.
Yeah.
Right. Like, some people like success over everything, and some of those people are hard to be around.
Yeah. Well, I want to use this last little bit to touch on the importance of health. Because for me, like there's certainly been a mental health piece to this conversation, but at the same time, from a physical health standpoint, we both live in a state that battles it out with a couple of other states every year for number 49 and number 50 on the health chart. And so where does your motivation for health come from? Because I would have to assume it doesn't come from external. So if it is internal, or is it external?
I don't know. I mean, I think that certainly maybe the beginning of the 2000s, I felt like we could make change in kids and families' lives and make the city a healthier place. I think that I sometimes got a little too audacious with how big of an impact we could make. Some would argue that we've made that impact. Maybe, I don't know. Again, for me, I think that it just became, there was a passion for health. It seemed like a no-brainer. It seemed like, eating well was not as hard as everybody thought.
Right.
It seemed like exercise is not as hard to me as everybody else did. And I mean, I swam growing up, but make no mistake, I took off the 90s, all of them. I mean, I didn't do one healthy thing in the 90s.
Right.
And so I understood how easy it is to not to. And, I just, it just seemed like I don't want to, not like a moral thing, but it just seemed like the smart thing to do, or the right thing to, like, hey, it's not that hard. Like, you can still have fun. You can still drink. You can still do things. Like, but it was like, because 90% of the time you do better, or you eat a little bit better, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of when did I turn that switch when it was just like became everything to me?
Yeah.
But it really did.
But I like the fact that it has become everything to you, I think in itself is worth noting, but also worth just for people listening to help them understand the importance of why it is everything to you. Like, why is health everything to you at this point?
Well, I mean, now having some health problems, like, you realize how easily that can be taken away. I don't know. I guess everybody's got to be, it became the thing that I latched on to as making so much sense and being a way to improve people's lives. People are feeling better. It just in eating better and exercising. I mean, like, every doctor worth their salt in the world will say, like, there's the two things you can do: eat better and exercise. Like, it's
right.
And how many other problems and different health issues. I mean, can't even dive into how unhealthy we are as a nation, not just states. Just it's mind boggling. And for people to go, oh, it's so impossible, I can't do that. And I'm like, it's not. You just you have to. You just have to figure out a way.
Yeah. But I actually love landing on the have to and encouraging people listening to identify why they have to.
Yeah.
Because I think you have your reasons for having to make health everything to you. I have my reasons to make health everything to me. And in that, I actually think we're practicing so much of where we've gone with this whole conversation is like, we're saying yes to something that would be very easy to say no to.
Yeah.
You know, we're considering the reasons to understand how we can do it to our best, how we can explore what it would mean to do things to completion, and using health as a vehicle for discovering that about ourselves.
I think that, you know, we talked about this, you know, we had that event that we did a couple years ago together. And I was sitting there just being everybody, even there that was there for a healthy event.
Yeah.
Half of the crowd was like, yeah. And I was like, wait, this is y'all are the ones that signed up to do this.
Right.
And y'all are half-assing.
You 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Right.
Right. Like, get in. Like, and then, you know, further, like, I went back to saying, like, you know, with some of the executive coaching, different things that you work on, I was like, I mean, if it were me, I would be leading with, hey man, how are you eating?
Yeah.
Are you exercising?
Yeah.
Like, just from the, you know, you want to be growth ready. You want to be a good boss, a good leader, and this and that, you know, waking up in the morning, or if you're a night person, doing it at night and exercising, or taking your lunch and doing that, or doing, like, that matters.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you better at everything. Yeah. Whether you believe it or not, give me 30 days of doing it. And like, you could probably even, we'll find some measurables and see what you feel like as a leader and a husband and a dad and this and that. Like, you know, I've got friends with young kids still, and I'm like, you can't, I mean, you can live like this, but like, I was super healthy.
Yeah.
And I still have health problems. You're not super healthy. If you have the same health problems I have, you're going to probably have a lesser outcome than I've had.
Right. And I'm so thankful for you to even bring that in here, and to acknowledge that through being healthy, when we do have the issues with health, that our ability to bounce back, our ability to navigate such things suddenly dramatically increases. You know, and I think some people would use what's happened to you in the last year or two. Like, well, then why would I bother? Right? Why would I bother? If this is going to happen to me anyway, why would I bother?
Right.
It's like, well, because of the way you've been able to navigate this and achieve what you've achieved through these adversities, that's why you bother. That's why you do it. You know, you don't think about, again, what might happen if it doesn't.
Well, and you might, but
do.
you at least know, like, you know, I know that I'm going to say audacious things to somebody like you, so that, number one, you'll be like, you had said that. Are you still going to do that?
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, yes. And that, like, I know that, like, I'm probably the least healthy I've been in the last 20 years right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand over the next month or so, maybe 2 months, that I'm going to get back to where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect it.
Yeah.
And it's just how it's going to have to be.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. I'm not being super cliche in the whole conversation, but I believe I'm going to. And so that's how you have to approach it.
Well, I believe you're going to as well, brother. And
Yeah.
I know you're going to navigate things that are coming your way. I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to sit down with you as I sort of look at this conversation as a whole, to think of what it means to you to be growth ready, and for you to say it's about saying yes. What I've heard all the way through this conversation is a guy that is, yes, of course, you're looking at things and saying, what's the way I'm going to say yes to this? Therefore, what's going to allow me to then navigate it and step into it and give me that reason to then assess as I go, how do we keep going? How do we make it something that we can take to completion? How do we ensure that we can turn it into its best? All by leaning more towards the yes, as opposed to not having that discipline to move towards the no.
Yeah. And saying, you know, sometimes it's also, I don't want to say as easy as, but some of the starting points, like, because that's what I said I was going to do.
Right.
And, like, that matters as well.
That matters as well.
So,
episode 300. Very rarely will I say that I'm proud of myself, but I am actually proud of myself. I'm proud of myself to get to 300. I'm incredibly humbled and delighted to have someone that I've gotten to know so well in you, to be my 300th episode. I quite honestly, think about the theme of this conversation, have no idea how I got to 300. It had a lot to do with the fact that when I first started, I just said, I'm going to do a podcast. And once I started, it was almost as though it was my duty to keep going.
Yep.
You know, and so somewhat, this is what makes this conversation so relevant to this being episode 300. It's why I'm so appreciative that we got to do it. And I knew we would cover a whole array of things. But in closing, I wanted to just turn it back to you, brother, and just say, like, looking out into our listeners sounds kind of weird to say it like that, but when there's a camera, you have to look out a little bit.
Sure.
But what is that parting message? What's that important word that you think we need?
I think it's something that, you know, we've talked a lot about with training and like trying to live a little bit healthier or trying to get around some sort of adversity. Is like, you just got to start with something. Mm-hmm. And you have to, you know, if it's tough to start today, well, then you have to start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, and then sometimes you have to try to convince yourself to start every day. Mm-hmm. But that if you do that, like, over time, it becomes that much easier.
Yep.
It's like, you know, it's easier to stay in shape than to get out of shape and get into shape.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
But being able to convince yourself to start and believing in yourself, I mean, it can, if you're not wired that way, it can be something that you can make yourself do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Easiest way to start is by saying yes. There you go.
Absolutely.
Pat, appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And thank you, as always, for listening. Tune in to episode 301. I don't actually know what that episode's going to be as I finish out this particular episode, but I knew that I wanted Pat to be episode 300, and I knew I wanted to bring it to you in this format as well. So I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity for Pat and I to spend some time with you. And in the meantime, as always, best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.